Being part of the ISV Connect program helps our visibility with Microsoft sellers, which in turn helps us when we're introduced to new partners.
It has accelerated our entrance into new markets, and our product is developing with higher quality and at higher speed than it would otherwise have.
Things like ISV licensing, handling our licenses just like any Microsoft first-party applications. We see that as a big benefit.
What ISV Connect program introduced is very different level of confidence with our customer. And with the Microsoft expanding the program, we are expecting to grow our ISV portfolio significantly.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another installment of ISV Connect Live. My name is Brian Galicia, and I lead our Dynamics 365 business application ISV global business here at Microsoft. It's an honor to have another guest, Ryan from DynamicWeb, to join us. And we do these events every Monday because we really want to highlight the amazing partner ecosystem, particularly ISVs we have working with Dynamics and the Power Platform. And so before we get started and create an introduction to Ryan, let me give you a quick housekeeping items, a couple things to be paying attention to. One, this is a live event, so feel free to ask questions in the window of LinkedIn if you have one, because it might create the dialogue of something that you might find interesting, and then I can ask that question live with Ryan. We'd love to hear where you're watching from because we have a global audience. So whether you're watching from the East Coast where Ryan is, the West Coast where I am, or anywhere in between, or maybe Europe or maybe Asia, feel free to just put in the LinkedIn comments where you're watching from. We'll give you a quick shout out at the beginning. The other is that as you're watching the conversation, if there's something that resonates with you, feel free to use the like, the celebrate, whatever it is, and also subscribe. Either follow Ryan, follow myself, and follow the hashtag ISV Connect Live to watch and see all the amazing events that we do with our partners and watch any of the replays that come up. So without further ado, Ryan, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for making the time out of your day on a Monday to talk with us. So when I start out all the conversations with all my guests, first thing I always ask is, what's your role? Because I know you lead the partnership team at DynamicWeb. So talk about a little bit about your role. And then my favorite question, kind of an icebreaker, is what's one thing not on your LinkedIn profile that you're open to sharing with this global audience?
Yeah, sure. Great. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having us, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here and looking forward to talking to you a little bit more about what we do and our connection with Microsoft. My name is Ryan, and I'm Chief Alliance Officer, kind of an interesting title here at DynamicWeb, and took on that title a little over about 2 years ago almost now, and work with partners and our partnership network. So not only partnerships with Microsoft, but also with resellers, with other ISVs, and then I also lead our sales team as well here. So been with the company just about 9.5 years. So it's been definitely a ride, a lot of experience. Yeah, it's fun. So I was thinking about what's not on LinkedIn. That's an interesting question. Actually from Iowa. You mentioned I'm on the East Coast now. I live in the Carolinas. I'm from Iowa originally, just grew up a farm boy, just really no introduction to technology at all growing up, and really felt drawn to the Carolinas. Met my wife here, but then ended up, we love vacation at the beach. So one thing that I am that likes long walks on the beach, guys. I know people joke around that, right? But that's actually me. I love long walks on the beach, and we're actually moving to the Carolina coast here this summer. So really excited about that. It's where I love to spend our extra free time.
I love it, Ryan. And I can't remember, there's a lot of beaches in Carolina, but Wilmington, it's close to the water, but then South Carolina too. I mean, up and down the coast, there's some amazing beaches. And it's interesting because I think about the West Coast and East Coast. It's a different vibe because when you're on the West Coast, you see the sunset, but when you're on the East Coast, you see the sunrise.
That's right.
So I always kind of lose track of that. And so it was a fascinating experience because just a preference of, do you want to see the sunrise on a beach or do you want to see the sunset on the beach? So
yeah, it's interesting. First, and the water temperature, right? We can hang out in the water most days. Well, not in the winter, but in the summer, without a wetsuit or anything like that, and just really enjoy it. So it is different, but we love it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I couldn't do that in the Seattle, even in the summer.
That's right.
Very hard to be surfing or doing anything in the Washington West Coast. It's beautiful, but it's different.
Yeah.
So before we get started with the first question, let me give a quick shout out to Sodicha. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, but I think that's your name. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So thank you so much for making the time on a Monday to watch the event and listen to Ryan and myself have a conversation. So, Ryan, why don't you describe a little bit about DynamicWeb? I mean, what's for people who have never come across your organization? Maybe you can describe a little bit about what's the business outcomes that you help to solve
Sure.
on top of Dynamics or Microsoft and the
Yep.
Power Platform. And that will give people a sense for the capabilities and the amazing use cases and business outcomes that you guys help to drive.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. We call ourselves an all-in-one business suite, right? So we started in 1999 in Denmark as a content management system, and then grew shortly after that to add e-commerce. We've had digital marketing and then product information management over the years. So we've really developed this full suite that integrates with Dynamics products with a very, very small footprint inside of the ERP. So it helps us to kind of keep the e-commerce and website-based, behavior and customizations and configurations outside of the ERP, which we think is really great. Really three primary buckets, I think, where we help customers solve problems, or maybe more specifically, where we stand out in comparison to some other products that also do similar things that we do. On the e-commerce side, or ordering, like B2B ordering, portal ordering, we really focus primarily on things that are more than just add to your cart and check out. So a lot of our customers maybe have some complex business processes that they need to support. Maybe they have some unique user interface or things that their customers need to do. Sometimes what we see is that there's been customizations inside of Dynamics, or maybe an ISV is bringing some solution into the ERP, and then they want to surface that either data or functionality to the web, so that their customers can interact with it, right? So that's one thing that we do, including like connect to configure price quote CPQ, solutions. So that's one thing that we do on the solution side, like for ordering. For customer self-service, again, for us, e-commerce is like more than just a checkout. So we do a lot with customer self-service. So custom warranty and claims processes, helping really reduce the amount of effort that our customers have to spend on customer service, on accounts receivable, that kind of manual, high touch stuff, automating that so their customers can self service, right? In particular, in the B2B world, we see a lot of customers. They want to do business like they do as a consumer, right? They jump online when it's convenient to them to place an order. They're already placing, paying bills online. They want to do that same thing as a business, as running a business, right? As they do as a consumer. So driving a lot of self-service functionality. And then finally, the third solution set for us is probably that PIM. So product information management, making an easy place for customers to manage their data, get it out of the thousands of spreadsheets that are circulated in the office and nobody knows which one's the most up to date, and getting it in one single place, and really being able to enrich product data with data points that don't really belong in the ERP, right? They don't make sense to be in the ERP. So you can add a lot more rich data and then push that data out to like third-party marketplaces or other channels. Again, all one place, kind of easy to manage. So I'd say those are kind of the three buckets, Brian, of where we all-in-one suite kind of comes together to be most unique, I'd say, for our customers.
Yeah, what a great overview, Ryan, because I mean, it touches so many use cases that you described, and in particular, kind of bringing out from an ERP or Dynamics F&O scenarios and sourcing it out to remove the complexity, because we all know ERP is not one of those turnkey things that you just install, click a button, and everything's working.
That's
But
right.
then the other is that you mentioned too, the unique use cases where you touch Dynamics Commerce and how do you expose things that sit in a traditional product and pricing engine and surface it up. And I love how you said too, because it aligns to your role of trying to connect, which we see a lot, which is ISVs working with other ISVs. Because of course you probably don't do full end-to-end configure price quote, but you can take some of that information that exists in another ISV provider that's providing that and expose that in a certain way.
Yeah, you're right. Right. So then the customer has kind of a single pane of glass. They can log in to place a regular parts or product order, see a pane where they can configure actually using the CPQ logic, so we don't have to recreate that business logic, right? Use the logic that already exists, and then maybe switch over and pay their account, pay online, or check an order status, or submit a claim. And so the more things that we feel like the more things that you can do with a single login to a single solution,
Yeah.
it's just really helpful in a customer experience type of way.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's a good way of framing it, is that we all are customers, regardless of whatever role you have. And what you want to do is when you log in, you want to have a login secure and scalable that then sees your end-to-end experience, regardless of whatever that is, whether it be a purchase
Yeah.
experience or a service experience that you described.
Yeah,
Love it.
absolutely. And leveraging the data, right? And so, like Teams, for example, our customers, they're inside the ERP all day, or inside of CE and or Business Central and F&O, and they're doing the business that they need to do, right? It's the stuff that they have to do to run their business. And then so the fact that we can tap into that and then bring it to the web, they don't have to recreate any of it.
Mhm.
They don't have to recreate pricing. They don't have to recreate, product sets. Who sees what products when they log in? Just really being able to leverage what Microsoft is already doing for that logic. We find that also to be a big help for our administrative teams. It's hard to measure, Brian, because how do you measure sometimes that reduction of effort, right?
Yeah.
That you see headcount effort that and not that we're looking to replace headcount over time, right? But as companies need to scale, they need to scale in a way that that's more efficient. And so that's one of the big values I think that we bring. It's the harder to measure value, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that mantra we like to do is to kind of do more with less, in the spirit of taking
Great point.
advantage, really just taking advantage of what you have today and maximizing those outputs, which it's great to hear that you have the ability to, again, take those resources and really apply them to the right thing. So that's a good segue into our next question, which is,
Sure.
what's been the partnership experience? Of course, you've been in the Microsoft ecosystem for, I don't know if it's been a year or a few years now, but maybe you could describe a little bit about what's been the DynamicWeb in your experience as the partner leader, working closely with Microsoft and the opportunities it provides, not just with our Microsoft sellers through co-sell, but again, like you said, the experience of utilizing and taking advantage of the ecosystem, which is the thousands and thousands and thousands of partners, not just ISVs, but also our software integrators, our software implementers who are doing Dynamics implementations, and realize, oh, there's a use case here where it's much better to take something off the shelf than try to build something from scratch. And so maybe you could describe a little bit about that partnership experience you've had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned, we started back in 1999, and we kind of grew up in Denmark alongside of Navision and AX and some of those products, right? And so when we entered the North American market about 10 years ago, we were already integrating with those solutions and how now integrate with Business Central and F&O, as I mentioned. But we've kind of gone it ourselves, Brian, to be honest, right? Over the last decade, built relationships with SIs, built relationships with other ISVs, and put together a little micro partnership network that we had with other Microsoft company or partners. And we've done fairly well in that, but about 2 years ago, we made a shift and said, hey, we really need to go after this, direct relationship with Microsoft, pursue this ISV Connect program in particular. We brought somebody onto our team, Scott Rich. He's our director of marketing, and he had success doing that with other organizations. And now, happy to say, along that journey, we just got co-sell ready approved. So we're a co-sell partner now as of, I think, last week before. So we're really excited to see that. We're on AppSource with a couple of our different products. And I can tell you already, it's funny. I'm watching that video, right, that we teed up today's session with. That all those testimonies are true for us, right? We're already seeing more responsiveness. Not that we lacked responsiveness earlier, but more responsiveness with inside the Microsoft community as we reach out for help. We see more visibility. We're having people reach out to us that would have never reached out to us in the past, right? We're seeing people connect to us through AppSource and find our solution through AppSource, where primarily in the past it was just all kind of word of mouth through our partners that we developed relationships with over time. So it's been tremendous, and it's really, just like you mentioned, about a year and a half, 2 years in the works, right? So we're really excited to see where that takes us here in the coming years.
I love it, Ryan, and thank you for those shout outs, because I think a lot of it too is people realize, I mean, a lot of our effort is focused on the business applications, or at least Dynamics enterprise scenarios, whether it be CE, F&O, or Power Platform. But you hit it spot on. You also have great capabilities in Business Central, but you also have SaaS solutions that work on Azure, and then you touched upon Teams. And so it's great to see partners like yourself really take advantage. And it's not that every partner has to do that, but it unlocks more doors to
That's
get
right.
just more visibility and more capabilities when you can kind of look at the Microsoft cloud and our unique value proposition, because we're the only vendor on this planet that touches so many things.
Yeah.
That can also be complex, but it also, if we have the right partnership, we can actually deliver really amazing outcomes that, again, truly appreciate how your organization is built through it, to where, again, we're building upon each other every year to make the partnership stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of went into it years ago with the thought that we had to do it on our own, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that we had to, because we had that same thought that Microsoft was kind of focused on their own products and their own ecosystem.
Yeah.
And when we finally broke that notion and started down this path, it's been great. And like I mentioned, we're excited to see where it goes.
I love it. And Adisha, that was the name of the famous city that I was thinking of, Myrtle Beach. That's one
Myrtle
of the beaches,
Beach.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Myrtle Beach is great. It's got definitely don't go on bike week unless you're a biker, and then go on bike week. But if otherwise, I'll tell you what, it's crowded down there. We're going to be a little bit north of that in Wilmington area,
yeah.
which is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite questions to ask is the customer stories that you can share
Mhm.
and tell. So maybe Ryan, you can go a little bit, because of course, regarding those three very unique scenarios that DynamicWeb provides, maybe you could touch upon a few customer stories, or maybe touch upon the industry as well that you're
Yeah.
seeing these amazing success in the business outcomes. And we do have a video at the end, so I definitely encourage people to stay on. It's about a 2-minute testimonial that really gives some additional insight and value from a joint partner and then customer
Yeah.
of DynamicWeb and Microsoft on their story. But maybe you could talk about a few customer stories, Ryan.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I picked one in particular that kind of highlights several areas that I talked about before, and primarily dynamic web. We see a lot of work we do because of the type of things that we support are in the B2B space. Probably about 80% of our solutions are B2B, although we do have some B2C. We have a lot of time in manufacturing and distribution in particular, and then have a few vertical markets that we support. But the customer case story that I wanted to highlight for today is a joint solution that we put together with one of our closer Microsoft resellers and solutions implementers, Western Computer. They're actually in the Microsoft Inner Circle partner. They have a really unique solution that they put together inside Business Central, or alongside Business Central, specifically for the wine and spirits industry. And as you can imagine, the wine and spirits industry, they have a lot of complex distribution needs, pricing needs, product support in terms of territories and so forth, what can be distributed where, right? So you can just imagine it's a pretty complex world. And so Western Computer has put together this software that connects with Microsoft Business Central and helps to provide solutions for that industry. So one of our joint customers is in the luxury wine. They're a luxury wine importer. And they're interesting because they have two different solutions: a business to consumer solution and a business to business solution that we support both of those alongside Western. And they the B2C, it's interesting. Plus, it's just fun to talk about wine for me. So they specialize on their B2C side in kind of hard to get auction type, kind of estate type wine sales. And so what wine is available to what types of buyers is all handled through the website. So it's, again, some of that complex e-commerce, more than just add to your cart and check out. And on the B2B side, it gets even more interesting, because then you get into distributors who have exclusive rights to different states in essence, and where they're bringing in these imported luxury wines into those different areas to serve up their clients, which are like wine stores and restaurants and folks that are looking for this higher end luxury wine. And so it's again that a little bit more unique business processes or complexity on the e-commerce ordering part. On the self-service piece, the B2B customers in particular, they can come in and see their order and tracking history. That's pretty standard for e-commerce, but they can also, pay their invoices online, check to see what allotments are coming up. And self-service goes another step further using our product information management system. The customer can put in all of this product data. So in the wine world, right, we think about things like varietal information, tasting notes, reviews from different wine enthusiasts or different wine organizations. So they can put all of that data inside the product information management system outside DynamicWeb with still a connection to the primary product inside Business Central. So pull the primary product over, enrich it with all this other stuff that's great, sits outside the ERP, and then their customers can self-serve to get that data. So they can go online and like pull dynamic, spec sheets. So if you think about you going to a wine store and you see a wine rating or a review or a quote from, some known sommelier, right? Or a score or a flyer, right? They can go and pull the data that they need to create self-serve, and all that data is real time. So they don't have to worry about, is it out of date? Was that PDF version 1.2 from 6 years ago? No, it's just you pull the data that you need when you need it. So that's kind of an interesting use case, Brian. I think that highlights, several of the areas of our platform that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about just the wine industry or beverage, wine and spirits, those complexities on both sides. I mean, could you hit it spot on? It's not just a B2C scenario where a wine enthusiast that just loves wine goes, oh, okay, here's the place I'm going to go buy it. But you have all these distributors that could also place orders, but then have that experience. So that's the biggest thing. All this stuff, how can you get the things that sit in the back office and surface it up in the secure, in the scalable way so that the information is interacted in real time? And
absolutely.
I think, with what you described, when someone tries to do an implementation on that, that's very hard to do if you don't have certain things out of the box. And of course, we tried to do a lot of things on Microsoft, but we don't do everything like this. Right. And so your solution really provides that additional layer of value, because when people are looking for a more turnkey scenario, granted, there is work that has to be involved to configure it to what you want to do. However, that's much easier than to try to take something and do a whole bunch of custom code to go figure out how to make that work.
Right. Or to home grow a solution and then you're supporting code, right? So to build on top of a framework, even if you have some customizations that are needed, to build on top of a framework and to leverage a team that's done similar things, with other customers in the past.
I love it.
The Pacific Northwest, you'll appreciate, we have some use cases in the agriculture space or horticulture space. So in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of growers, right? There's a lot of companies that grow plants and live plants. And so we have a number of solutions where their customers, which are like, would be a nursery in North Carolina, would log on to the website and they're ordering live plants for like the fall, so they're going in and batching up. They want a series of plants or flowers for this week, and they only get a truck on the first and third Thursday of the month. And they can go build up orders to fill up those trucks. And we even can provide alerts to say, hey, if you add 2 more plants, you'll fill up that pallet, which saves you truck space, which saves you shipping. Right. So bringing some of that, who would have thought that you could do? Listen, when I was on a farm in Iowa and we were ordering seed corn, there was no way that we would have thought that we'd be ordering, food for the cattle in October on a second and third Thursday of the month truck system. It's just amazing what can be done to help customers run their business in a dynamic way. And then it helps the growers, right? Because they can pre-plan their supply that's needed, and then ultimately back into what they need from a growing and planting perspective. So just really interesting.
It is super fascinating. Could you think about some of the challenges that recently experienced with supply chain? I'm sure there's still legacy stuff that's still occurring there. But all those things, to your point, Ryan, is like the just-in-time stuff, and optimizing it in real time is amazing. And the Northwest, for those of you who've never been to Washington, apples, like huge. I don't know what the per capita is, but Washington is very famous for apples.
Yes, indeed.
Great wineries on the eastern, not West Coast, or not the western side of Washington, but the eastern side of Washington, where it's a little bit more dry and heat related. But I love how you said logistics. I mean, who would have thought, or you described, that you can impact business outcomes in the logistics space to optimize, again, just-in-time ordering, or optimizing the ordering so that someone goes, oh yeah, I can add 2 more in there to optimize it, because I'll probably need it and store it on site and things like that. I love it. So with the remaining time we have left, Ryan, why don't you talk about a little bit about next steps?
Sure.
Of course, we're on LinkedIn. I highly encourage everyone to connect, as I mentioned at the beginning, connect with Ryan and myself. Follow, and I'll put a couple of links in here as Ryan's talking, but maybe you could describe, Ryan, like how do people learn more? Whether they're a Microsoft employee going, oh, I have a use case here that I can pull you guys. Maybe it's another partner that comes across this and goes, wow, these are some interesting use cases that I didn't realize that DynamicWeb existed, and how to start a partnership. And then, of course, finally, we do have customers or buyers that might be listening to this and come across the replay and go, oh, this is super interesting. Maybe we could touch upon, like, how do people learn more? What are kind of the next best steps?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, check us out on LinkedIn. I think we might have the address to throw up here, so you guys can follow us there. We do post other webinars. We do a lot of kind of thought leadership type webinars as well. So if you're more interested in hearing more about the industry and trends, check us out there. I'm going to make it easy for all of our Microsoft partners, ISV, SIs, potential customers. Just contact me. So my email address is rme@dynamicwebusa.com. I'll make sure you get to the right person. I think that'll just be an easy, nice, simple touch point for you. And I'd love to meet you and learn what you're looking for to see if we can help. And then finally, we're on the web, you would believe it or not, right? So DynamicWeb, DynamicWeb.com, check us out there. You can find us, you can learn more about some of our case studies, some of our partners, some of our projects that we've done.
I love it, Ryan. And I'm going to flash up this final one here, which is this shortcut just goes to one of the many listings that DynamicWeb has. And the great thing about AppSource is that when you go to one, at the very bottom, it shows all the other pieces of IP that we touched upon. We didn't touch upon all of them, but gives you a sense for the amazing scenarios that Ryan described in the listings that exist on our marketplace called AppSource. So with that being said, Ryan, before we get to the amazing video that you sent me, which is the use case that you kind of described, but in a little bit more detail, any last parting thoughts before we move to the video?
No, again, thanks for having us, Brian. Really appreciate it, and can't say enough for what we've learned through the process for the ISV Connect program, but also looking forward to what's ahead of us and doing more business with Microsoft and helping to find ways that we can solve more problems together.
I love it, Ryan, and I'm truly grateful from myself and the Microsoft team, truly grateful for partners like you and DynamicWeb and all the things that you do to drive, amazing business outcomes with our end customers. So with that being said, thank you for those watching live. Thank you for those of you who come across this and watch the replay. As you see below, encourage you to follow ISV Connect Live. aka.ms/ISV Connect Live is where you can watch any of the past shows or any upcoming new shows we do. Again, we do these things every Monday at 8 a.m. So I appreciate you making the time. Super grateful for everyone taking the time to watch. So with that being said, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start the video. Thanks again, Ryan.
Thanks, Joe.
Talk to you soon.
My name's Greg Williams. I'm VP of Strategy for Western Computer. I've been at Western Computer 14 years, working in the dynamic space for over 20 years. Western Computer is based in Southern California, but I work remotely for them out of Michigan. DynamicWeb supports all of our sales reps with whatever they need at any time. They provide us demo environments that we can use that are connected to our Dynamics ERP environments. They've been very easy to work with. That's my favorite thing about DynamicWeb. When I recommend them to a customer, I know that that customer is going to be taken care of and have a successful outcome with their project. We have not had any failed projects with DynamicWeb. The best thing that DynamicWeb offers is their commitment to customer satisfaction and successful projects. When we recommend an ISV, if it doesn't work out, the customer always comes back and expects us to make it right. And DynamicWeb always makes it right for their customers. It's great because the customers feel like they're being heard and that DynamicWeb understands their requirements, and they're not just pushing a sale of a product. They're looking for a successful win-win project. They have a very, very, very collaborative approach at the sales level and at the management level. I know that my sales team is going to work very well with everyone on the DynamicWeb team, and I also know that if there's any strategic issues that we need to address, then I can reach out to the leadership at DynamicWeb. I see us expanding more and more as our customers move into selling on more channels and need more e-commerce sales channels and more marketplace channels. I see us expanding more and more with the DynamicWeb projects.